Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go! I was having a pretty boring day at home when my phone started ringing. I looked at the screen and saw it was a local number. I didn't recognize it, but I figured maybe it was someone I knew calling from a different phone. So I picked up. Hello? Hello, this is Visa calling. We've detected suspicious activity on your account. I immediately knew it was one of those annoying scam calls. I was about to hang up when I noticed something interesting on my phone screen. There was a little prompt that said, "Try audio emojis." Now, I'd never used this feature before, but I was curious. I tapped on it and saw a bunch of emoji options pop up. The scammer was still talking, trying to sound all official and stuff. "We need to verify your identity to protect your account. Can you please confirm your full name and the last 4 digits of your social security number?" I decided to have a little fun. I pressed the cheering crowd emoji and suddenly a loud roar of applause burst through my phone. "What? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Can you please repeat that?" I waited for him to finish and then hit the booing emoji. A chorus of disapproving boos filled the line. "Sir, this is a serious matter. We need to protect your account from fraud. Please listen carefully." This time I went for the poop emoji. A loud, obnoxious fart noise interrupted him. "What's going on? Sir, can you hear me?" "Oh, I can hear you just fine." I hit the cheering crowd emoji again, drowning out whatever he was trying to say next. This little back and forth went on for a bit. Every time he tried to speak, I blasted him with another audio emoji. Cheers, boos, fart. I cycled through them all. The scammer was getting more and more frustrated. He started yelling, trying to be heard over the noises I was making. "Sir, this is unacceptable. I'm trying to help you here." "Oh, really? How exactly are you trying to help me?" I followed that up with another fart noise. I could practically hear the vein popping in his forehead. "If you don't stop this immediately, I will have to terminate this call." "Promise?" Cue more cheering crowds. The poor guy was practically hyperventilating at this point. You! This is highly unprofessional," says a guy trying to scam people over the phone. I hit him with one last round of boos before he finally lost it. "That's it. I am done." And with that he hung up. The whole thing probably lasted less than a minute, but boy was it satisfying. I couldn't stop grinning as I blocked the number. Now I know what you're thinking. Isn't that a bit childish? Maybe, but let me tell you, after getting so many of these scam calls, it felt good to turn the tables for once. Plus, I like to think I wasted a minute of his time, a minute he couldn't spend trying to scam someone else. The rest of my day was pretty uneventful, but that little encounter gave me a good chuckle. I mean, who knew my phone had such a fun feature? It's like having a whole comedy sound effects board right at your fingertips. Our town home association has been a nightmare lately, and it all started with our former president, Brad. Let me tell you about the absolute disaster we've been dealing with. For years, Brad ran our homeowners association. At first, everything seemed fine. We'd have our meetings, discuss community issues, and go about our lives. But as time went on, things started to fall apart. Literally. I noticed the mailbox structure was rotten away. Every time I went to check my mail, I cringed at the sight of it. The wood was splintering and the paint was peeling off in chunks. It looked like a strong wind could knock it over. Then there was a roof. We all knew it needed replacing, but Brad kept putting it off. "We'll get to it next year," he'd say every time someone brought it up, but next year never seemed to come. The final straw for me was when I discovered a leakage in my garage. Water was seeping in through the ceiling, creating a small puddle on the floor. I called Brad immediately. "Brad, we've got a serious problem. There is a leak in my garage." "Oh, that's unfortunate. Have you tried putting a bucket under it?" "A bucket? Brad, we need to fix this properly. It's going to cause more damage if we leave it." "I understand, but we just don't have the funds for major repairs right now." "What do you mean we don't have the funds? We all pay our fees every month. Where is that money going?" "Well, maintenance, landscaping, that sort of thing. Don't worry, I've got it under control." But he didn't have it under control. Not even close. It wasn't just me who was frustrated. My neighbors were all experiencing similar issues. We'd gather outside, chatting about the state of our homes and a lack of action from Brad. Neighbor 1 says, "Did you see the state of the playground? The swings are rusted and I'm afraid to let my kids play there." Neighbor 2, "Yeah, what about the pool? It was closed all summer because Brad said we couldn't afford the chemicals to keep it clean." This is ridiculous. We pay our fees every month. Where's all that money going? We decided to confront Brad at the next homeowners association meeting. It was a tense affair with nearly every homeowner in attendance. Homeowner 1, Brad. "We need to see the financial records. We want to know where our money is going." Brad says, "I've told you before, we just don't have enough funds for all these repairs." Homeowner 2, "Then show us the books. Prove it to us." "There is no need for that, I assure you. I am managing the finances responsibly." If you're managing them responsibly, then you should have no problem showing us the records. "I don't appreciate these accusations. I've been president for years, and I've always had the community's best interests at heart." The meeting ended with Brad storming out, refusing to show us any financial records. We were all left feeling frustrated and betrayed. Things came to a head when it was time to renew our building insurance. Brad had always handled this, but this time he dropped the ball completely. We only found out when one of my neighbors, who works in insurance, happened to ask about our policy. "Brad, what's going on with our insurance? Is it up to date?" I asked him. Of course. I've got it all under control." "Are you sure? Because I heard it might have lapsed." "Well, there might have been a small issue with the renewal, but I'm handling it." Small issue? We later found out we've been without insurance for a month. If anything had happened during that time, we would have been completely unprotected. That was the last straw for all of us. We called an emergency meeting and voted to replace Brad. Susan, one of our more organized neighbors, stepped up to take over as president. She promised transparency and immediate action on our most pressing issues. Susan's first order of business was to secure new insurance for our building. She managed to do in a week what Brad couldn't do in months. But when she tried to access the financial records, she hit a wall. "Brad, I need access to all the financial records. As a new president, it's my responsibility to manage the association's finances." "I'll get him to you when I have time. I'm busy right now." "This isn't optional, Brad. I need those records immediately." "You'll get them when I'm ready to hand them over." It took months of pressuring Brad with the entire association backing Susan before he finally gave us some information. But it was only a fraction of what we needed. Fortunately, it was enough for Susan to gain online access to the account. What she found shocked us all. Susan called an emergency meeting to share her findings. The room was buzzing with nervous energy as we all gathered. "I've managed to access our financial records, and I'm afraid I have some disturbing news." She paused, taking a deep breath before continuing. "Brad hasn't been paying his homeowners association fees. In fact, he owes over $7,000 in unpaid fees." The room erupted in angry shouts. Homeowner 1, "Are you kidding me? He's been hounding us about our fees for years." Homeowner 2, "No wonder we couldn't afford any repairs." "What about all the money we've been paying? Where'd that go?" Susan says, "That's the other issue. I've found several suspicious transactions that I cannot account for. Large sums of money being withdrawn with no clear purpose." The room fell silent as the implications of Susan's words sank in. I want to stress that we've only scratched the surface here. There could be more that we haven't uncovered yet. I ask, what do we do now? We confront Brad. We demand answers and full access to all records. And depending on what we find, we may need to consider legal actions. We all agreed. The next Homeowners Association meeting was scheduled for the coming weekend, and we were determined to get answers from Brad. The days leading up to the meeting were tense. Neighbors huddled in small groups discussing theories and sharing their anger. I couldn't believe how badly we'd all been duped. All those times Brad had told us we couldn't afford repairs, all while he wasn't even paying his own fees, it made my blood boil. Finally, the day of the meeting arrived. We all filed into the community center. Brad arrived last, looking nervous as he surveyed a room full of angry faces. Susan called the meeting to order. "Brad, we've discovered some very disturbing information about the association's finances. Would you care to explain?" I don't know what you're talking about." "Cut the crap, Brad. We know you haven't been paying your fees, over $7,000 worth. I yell at him. Brad's face paled. There must be some mistake. I've always paid my fees. Homeowner 1, and why don't you show us the proof? I don't have it with me. Susan tells him, what about the suspicious withdrawals? Large sums of money disappearing with no explanation. Those were for community projects. What projects? Nothing's been fixed or improved in years. I can explain everything. I just need some time to get my records in order. You've had months, Brad. We're done waiting. We want answers now. The meeting devolved into chaos after that. Brad tried to defend himself, but his excuses were weak and full of holes. People were shouting, demanding their money back, calling for legal actions. In the end, Brad stormed out, red-faced and sweating. We were left to pick up the pieces of our fractured community. Susan says, all right, everyone. I know we're all angry and frustrated, but we need to focus on moving forward. Our first priority is to get a full audit of our finances, and we'll decide on our next steps, including possible legal action against Brad. What about all the repairs we need? The roof, the mailboxes, my garage. We will prioritize the most urgent repairs and start working on a plan to address everything else. It won't happen overnight, but we'll get there. In the weeks following our confrontation with Brad, things moved quickly. Susan, true to her word, initiated the full audit of our homeowners association's finances. The results were even worse than we initially thought. The audit revealed that Brad had been mismanaging funds for years. Not only had he failed to pay his own fees, but he'd also been using the association's money for personal expenses. We found charges for vacations, expensive dinners, and even a new car, all paid for with our hard-earned money. With the evidence in hand, we took legal action. The association filed a lawsuit against Brad for fraud and misappropriation of funds. It was a difficult decision, but we all agreed it was necessary to recover our losses and hold him accountable. The trial was intense. The prosecution, armed with our meticulous financial records, tore his defense apart. In the end, the jury found Brad guilty on all counts. The judge, clearly disgusted by Brad's abuse of trust, handed down a severe sentence. Mr. Brad, you have betrayed the trust of your entire community for personal gain. Your actions have caused significant financial and emotional distress to countless families. This court sentences you to 5 years in state prison. Additionally, you are ordered to pay full restitution of $180,000 to the Homeowners Association, plus $50,000 in punitive damages. Upon release, you will be on probation for 3 years and are permanently barred from holding any position of financial responsibility in any organization. Brad's face turned ashen as the reality of his punishment sank in. With Brad's sentencing behind us, our community focused on rebuilding. Susan and the new board got to work addressing our long-neglected issues. They prioritized the most critical repairs first. 1. We finally got that new roof installed, putting an end to the constant leaks. 2. The rotting mailbox structure was replaced with a sturdy new one. 3. My garage leak was properly repaired, along with several other similar issues around the community. Susan kept us informed every step of the way, providing detailed reports on income, expenses, and project progress. In the end, our homes were repaired, and our community was stronger than ever. That's a happy ending I can live with. Let me tell you how I got here. I met Justin when we were both fresh out of college. He was charming, ambitious, and seemed like he had his life together. We fell in love quickly and got married within a year. At first, everything was great. We both had decent jobs, and we were happy. Things changed when I got pregnant with our daughter Brittany. Justin started staying out late, claiming he was working overtime. I believed him at first, but then I noticed he was spending more money on himself. New clothes, expensive gadgets, nights out with his friends. When I confronted him about it, he brushed it off, saying he deserved to treat himself. After Brittany was born, I took a year off work to care for her. And that's when I realized how little Justin was contributing to our family. He rarely helped with Brittany. But when he did, he acted like he was doing me a huge favor. I found myself doing everything, taking care of Brittany, managing our finances, scheduling doctor's appointments, handling school paperwork, and trying to keep our house in order. As Brittany grew older, Justin's behavior got worse. He'd forget to pick her up from daycare, miss her school events, and even forgot her birthday one year. When I tried to talk to him about it, he'd get defensive and accuse me of nagging. The final straw came when I discovered he'd been cheating on me with a co-worker. I confronted him, and instead of apologizing, he blamed me for not being fun anymore. And that's when I knew our marriage was over. The divorce was messy. Justin fought against paying child support, claiming he couldn't afford it. But the judge saw through his lies and ordered him to pay $1,000 a month. At first, he paid regularly, but then the payments started becoming irregular. And eventually, they stopped altogether. Now here I am 5 months later, and Justin is almost $5,000 behind in child support. I've been hesitant to bring it up because every time I do, he makes me feel like I'm the problem. Let me tell you about our last interaction when I mentioned it. It was a sunny day in May when I was dropping Brittany off at Justin's place for his weekend visit. Justin, we need to talk about the child support payments. You're behind and it's really affecting Brittany and me. He rolls his eyes and waves his hand dismissively. Here we go again. Can't you just let it go for once? Let it go? This is our daughter's well-being we're talking about. I pray you heal from all the bitterness and anger. It's not a good look on you. Me stunned silence. Then he takes Brittany's hand. Come on, sweetie. Let's go inside and have some fun. And that was it. He just walked away, leaving me standing there feeling like I was the one who'd done something wrong. Since then, I've been torn about what to do. Part of me wants to keep reminding him to fight for what Brittany deserves, but another part of me is afraid. What if I get in trouble for not constantly reminding him? What if the judge thinks I'm not doing enough? I find myself struggling with old habits too. There is this voice in my head telling me I should just do everything for him like I used to. All of Brittany's school and medical information is online, and I have to fight the urge to just hand it all over to Justin instead of letting him take the initiative to get it himself. This actually came up in court once. Justin's lawyer tried to argue that I should be responsible for keeping Justin informed about everything related to Brittany, but my lawyer stood up for me. Your Honor, my client is no longer Justin's wife. She is not responsible for managing his parental duties. The judge eventually says, I agree. Mr. Justin, you have equal access to your daughter's information. It's your responsibility to stay informed. Despite this, I still worry. What if Justin ends up in jail because of the unpaid child support? Will I be held responsible for not reminding him enough? Last week, I finally decided to talk to my friend Katie about the situation. We met up at a local coffee shop and I poured my heart out to her. I just don't know what to do, Katie. I feel like I'm failing Brittany by not fighting harder for the child support. But I'm also afraid of pushing Justin too far. Honey, you're not failing anyone. Justin is the one failing his responsibilities as a father. What if I get in trouble for not reminding him? Listen to me, you're not his secretary or his mom. The court ordered him to pay child support. It is his job to remember, not yours to remind him. I know you're right, but I can't help feeling responsible. That's because he conditioned you to feel that way during your marriage. But you are not responsible for his actions anymore. You need to focus on yourself and Brittany. After talking with Katie, I realized I needed to take action. The next day, I called my lawyer to discuss the situation. I am worried about the unpaid child support. Justin is almost $5,000 behind now. Lawyer tells me, I'm glad you called. We can file a motion for contempt of court. Justin is violating the court order by not paying. Will I get in trouble for not reminding him more? Absolutely not. The court order is clear, and it's Justin's responsibility to follow it. You're not obligated to remind him. What about his access to Brittany's information? Should I be giving that to him? No, you don't need to do that. As a judge said once, Justin has equal access to that information. He needs to take the initiative to get it himself. After speaking with my lawyer, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. I realized that I wasn't responsible for Justin's failures, and I didn't need to keep enabling his behavior. The next week, my lawyer filed a motion for contempt of court. Justin was served with papers and a court date was set. When the day arrived, I was nervous but determined to stand my ground. In the courtroom, Justin tried to play the victim, claiming he couldn't afford the payments and that I hadn't reminded him. But the judge wasn't having any of it. Mr. Justin, the court order clearly states your obligation to pay $1,000 per month in child support. Your ex-wife is not responsible for reminding you of this duty. Can you explain why you haven't made any payments in the last 5 months? Justin, stammering, well, Your Honor, work has been slow and I've had some unexpected expenses. According to the financial records submitted to this court, you've made several large purchases in the past few months, including a new car and a vacation to Florida. Is that correct? Justin, looking uncomfortable. Yes, but, Mr. Justin, I find you in contempt of court for willfully violating the child support order. You are hereby ordered to pay the full amount of $5,000 in back child support within 30 days. Additionally, you will pay a $1,000 fine for contempt of court. If you fail to comply, you will face jail time. Do you understand? Justin nodding, yes, Your Honor. The judge then turns to me. In the future, if he fails behind on payments again, you should immediately notify the court or your lawyer. Do you understand? Yes, Your Honor. Thank you. In the later weeks, Justin paid the full amount of back child support and has been making regular payments since.
And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching and see you next time.